support the weight of the upper body and pass that on to the hip joints. So your sacrum receives pressure or receives forces from the ground every time you take a step. Every time you take a step, that's translated up your leg to your low back. So really, your lumbar and sacrum area and your pelvis, that's what carries the whole weight of your upper body. Okay? So actions of the pelvis, there's an anterior tilt, a posterior tilt, a lateral tilt, and forward and backward rotation. Okay, so it's time for me to dance now. So an anterior tilt, basically our reference point for that is going to be the iliac crests. Okay? So an anterior tilt is, so that's what happens when ladies, we wear our high heels. Mm-hmm. We push into an anterior tilt so we can stick our butt out a little bit to counterbalance. Okay? That's why guys like us in heels, is because it makes us stick all the right things out. I'm telling you, it defines your calves because you've got to use those calf muscles to do that, right? Sorry guys, don't mean to be picking on you. I'm going to get you a pair of heels to wear in a couple of weeks. Yeah. Welcome to our world. Okay, so that's your anterior tilt. So your posterior tilt then is when you collapse into your, you slouch. So you collapse into your pelvis basically. Okay, so instead of standing up straight at a neutral position, so you see this a lot of times with people that have a real weak core. So if I do this, what happens all the way up my spine? If I start here and I go here.
That's me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you stretch it out, but my posture just shows all the crap in a handbasket because neurologically, my eyes want to be even with the horizon. And so my body's going to adjust to that, because if I just do this, if I keep the rest of my spine straight, where am I? So I've got to slump forward to keep my eyes forward to see where I'm going. Okay. So what happens here is now, and this is really part of the posture discussion, but I can't help myself. So what happens here is you pull yourself off your internal scaffold. And so now you're depending on muscles to hold you up that are not really strong enough to do that because you haven't obviously been taking care of them because you can't hold yourself up straight. Okay? So that's posterior tilt. Lateral tilt is just, one side or another. Okay? So this is, sort of the mama babysitter pose where you plop a kid on your hip and you stick that hip out there. Okay, so what do you think that does to your spine over time? Okay, but you also do that. I see lots of legs crossed here. Think about put your both feet on the floor. Okay, and sit up nice and straight. Can you feel your sits bones? Can you feel those ischial tuberosity? Get it across your legs.
Your legs are too tall.
Cross your two legs. What are you feeling now?
I'm tilted to one side.
Just one, and you're tilted to one side. Yeah. So that's the little insidious piece of that where you get that lateral tilt. So what can happen is over time your pelvis starts to do this, and your pelvis attaches to your sacrum. So your sacrum starts to go that way. Plus you're putting stress on those SI joints, and then what happens? You start changing how your spine is all the way up. Okay. And then there's a situation of forward and backward rotation. So if we go back and look at this, so we've got cartilaginous connections here and cartilaginous connections here. And so while they don't move big, they do move. And so actually, if these are my iliac crests, you could actually tip one side or the other a little forward or a little back, depending on posture and that kind of stuff. And so can you see, if you get that twisted, how that's going to cause problems all the way up and all the way down? I mean, if your pelvis is not sitting right for whatever reason, your femurs come into your pelvis. So if your pelvis is not sitting right for whatever reason, that's going to affect everything else, isn't it? Because if I'm on a tilt, it can look like I've got one long leg and one short leg. So if I stay tilted, how am I gonna walk? Okay, looks like I'm limping, I'm really not. I just got one leg longer than the other.